Good morning, children. Well, now we're going to start with this week's vocabulary, but we're going to start with recapping last week's vocabulary. Now, do you remember vocabulary are words, all the words that we have in our brain that we can use when we speak and when we listen to people, and as you grow up you'll build your vocabulary to have more and more words. So the first picture is the man that we learnt about last week. Can you remember his name? It's William Shakespeare. He's a very, very famous man because he was very good at writing. In fact, one of the facts I found out last week was that his favourite lesson was writing at school. Now, this is last week's. Do you remember we learnt the word a play? If you go and see a play, this is when people are on a stage and they pretend to be somebody else and they act out a story. So, that would be a play. You might have watched one at the theatre, or you might have watched one on the television. Okay, and then a poet. What does a poet do, children? Do you remember? A poet writes poems, and on Friday I read you out one of William Shakespeare's poems, the fairy poem. So a poet writes poems. And then here we go. What does a playwright do? Can you remember what a playwright does? There's a clue in the word. That's right, a playwright writes plays. So plays are these stories that people act out, and a playwright writes the plays. So that's last week's words. Let's have a little look at this week's words. The first one is called tragedy. Tragedy. Have a look at the picture. Does that person look happy or sad? They definitely look sad, don't they? So a tragedy is a story or a play or maybe a poem that has a sad ending. It's a sad story. Something where it doesn't have a happy ending, it has a sad ending. And William Shakespeare wrote lots of tragedies. They were sad and ended badly, usually for somebody. Right, now, what about these people? Do they look happy or sad? They look happy, don't they? Excuse me. And our word is comedy. Now, a comedy is opposite to a tragedy. A comedy is a story or a play or something that's funny and makes you laugh. And Shakespeare, he wrote lots of comedies as well. And Midsummer Night's Dream is also a comedy. If you watch it all through, you would find it funny. Some funny things happen. That little sprite Puck does some funny things. And a comedy makes you happy and it makes you laugh. And our last word is sprite. Sprite. Now a sprite is like a little fairy, but usually a sprite is a boy fairy. Sometimes they're called elves, but often sprites. And we're going to meet a little boy fairy this week called Puck. So let's just go through. So a sprite is a little boy fairy. A comedy is a funny or happy story or play or film. A tragedy is a sad story or play or film. Remember, a playwright is somebody who writes plays. A poet is somebody who writes poems. A play is a event at a theatre usually, where actors pretend to be somebody else and they act out a story and you watch it. And a play could be a comedy, so it could be funny, or a tragedy. It would be sad. And the last one isn't a word, it's a person. Do you remember his name? That's right, William Shakespeare. See if you can remember all those words this week. There's a lot to remember, but I think you can do it.